Hello, everyone. This is Lawrence Sutton with Free Speech News and Chris Morris, where we are not politically correct, but biblically correct. And we are here to discuss two things you are not supposed to discuss: politics and religion. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great, Lawrence. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing good. So just let everybody know we're on Wednesday. We had things come up with family, with the Thanksgiving holidays. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. But we're having to pre-record this message. And if you see our Wednesday show, you're going to notice, yes, we are wearing the same clothes.
We don't wear them 3 days in a row.
We do not. So I just want everybody to know I do take a bath. I don't have a Sunday bath time. I try to do it every day. And so we're in our same clothes because we're pre-recording this.
Right. We're doing this right after the Lawrence County Republican show.
That is correct. So how's everything going, Chris?
Doing great. Getting ready for Thanksgiving. Looking forward to it. Want to wish everybody a wonderful, safe, and happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, sir. And I'm going to tell you something. We are truly blessed. We like to talk about the things that are going wrong in the world and in our country and sometimes even our state. But we are truly blessed by God, and we have a lot to be thankful for.
God be the glory.
God be the glory. Going to start off going right from the get-go. Northern Gaza is no longer habitable, is what the Israel is saying. They are saying that they have leveled northern Gaza and may not ever be rebuilt. But that is what Netanyahu talked about. Netanyahu said we're going to
destroy Amalek.
And he is staying true to form on that.
Well, he's a man of his word, unlike our leader.
Well, you know what? I don't think we have, unfortunately, much of a leader, because the leader that we have a war with Russia and Ukraine and Europe. We have now a war in the Middle East. We have China that looks down upon us and makes fun of us. We have North Korea. I mean, we are the laughing stock of the world now.
Of the globe. That is correct.
And so, the only reason that we have any type of respect at all is due to our military and the power that our military can still bring down the wrath of God if needed.
Yeah.
But the people that are leading our military, not so much. Not so much.
It's led by a woke culture. And while you're on this, I want to give a shout out to Senator Tommy Tuberville from Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
He is doing a great job. People don't understand why he's blocking these promotions, and it only goes from colonel up. And it's due to the terrible word, murderous word, abortion.
Right.
And where taxpayers are paying for these military people to have abortions, and it's illegal in the state of Tennessee, thank God.
Yes.
It's illegal in the state of Alabama, thank God, but they're moving them to other states to perform these abortions at taxpayers' dollars.
You know what's kind of funny? They're moving most of these states that are still have abortion. They talk about, well, we're giving you freedom, but these states have the least amount of freedoms in them.
They're taking your freedom.
They're taking your freedoms away. And not only are they taking your freedoms away, they're taking our children, which is a country's most precious asset is our children. And they are murdering them. And yes, I said murder. I mean, it is. God says in Jeremiah, I knew you before you were formed in the womb. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take it a step further. And people say, well, God can't hate, but I'm going to tell you right now, in Genesis, it talks about Esau. And God said, I hated him before he was even born.
He knew what Esau was all about.
Well, that is correct. That spirit that Esau encompassed. So
guess what modern day Esau people are?
They're right now in Hamas.
Hamas.
Yes, sir. Because, and most people don't understand, but Esau was the grandfather of Amalek. And even take it a step further in the book of Ruth, we have a character What was his name? Oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Oh wow, Chris.
Just move on. I know
Yeah.
how it is. I do the same.
Yeah,
We're having
it
a
did-
senior moment here.
Yeah. This happens. But anyway, he was the grandson of Amalek, and he was trying to kill all Haman. Haman was trying to kill all of the Jews, and Queen Esther had to go and plead to King Xerxes not to kill all her people. And that was Haman, and that is part of the Amalek tribe. So here we go. And the media before was for Israel, but it's starting to turn because Israel is starting to fight back. And they are getting all upset because Israel has come into a hospital called Al-Shifa Hospital. And the reason that they did is because Israel found
Weapons.
not only weapons, but they found bodies murdered of some of the hostages there at that hospital. They were actually using the hospital and underneath the hospital as a headquarters for Hamas.
Where everybody can paint this picture in their mind, they have tunnels under this hospital.
Yeah, and it's a command center. Now, there has been some things that have come to pass here in the last 24 hours. It looks like that Hamas has agreed to release 50 hostages, which are going to make up women and children from the beginning. Now, we have to wait and see if that actually happens, but they're doing it for hostages that Israel has and for a ceasefire.
No, it's not hostages. It's prisoners.
Prisoners.
We want to correct that. I did not.
I did what? Yeah, I'm being brainwashed.
It's easy to do because we're talking about Hamas is the one that's taken hostages.
Yes.
Israel has taken prisoners, but they got to give 150 of these prisoners up for the 50. I don't think that's quite a fair trade.
You know, I do, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's a fair trade.
Okay.
Because we are getting the innocent for the guilty.
Well, I don't disagree with that, brother.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, these 150 that they're going to have to release are 16, 17-year-olds that have been instilled since they were 4 and 5 years old to destroy Jews, to kill Jews. And I'm going to tell you, it's not going to end. There will be no ceasefire. I'm going to make a prediction right now.
Well, I tell you, and you're right, because until the Messiah comes back, Israel is not going to know any peace.
Hamas will not stop firing on Israel.
Until they're wiped out.
Until they're wiped out. So it's not going to stop. That's my prediction.
So I want to take and talk about a couple of things. And I really want to, if we do not know our history, we are doomed to repeat the past.
That's right.
So can you tell me, Chris, who the prime minister or the president of Palestine was in like 1940?
Arafat.
No, actually, Yasser Arafat.
Oh, that was in the 90s.
Yeah.
That was in the 90s.
Yeah, 1990. Yeah, I said 1940.
1940.
Yeah.
I'd have to look it up. I want to be honest with you.
There was none.
So a president didn't start in Palestine until...
There was no Palestine until the Oslo Accords in 1994.
1903 or 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Arafat was the first.
Was the first.
Okay.
There was no land of Palestine, period. Have you ever seen a Palestine coin?
No.
And the archaeological? Has there been any Palestine archaeological artifacts?
Not to my knowledge.
Now, there has been Philistine artifacts and Philistine coins.
Which that goes back to Samson and Goliath.
Yes. Yep. You had Goliath, who David killed, and Samson, before David, he was the one that was killing all of the Philistines. As a matter of fact, his last act, if you remember, Samson asked God to give him the strength to tear down the tower over all of the Philistines at that point. Do you know where the word Palestine comes from? I'll tell you where.
I'm just trying to think, and
Yeah.
does it come? Now the Romans destroyed. It came from Romans. From Rome.
The word Palestine actually comes from Romans, and they called it Palestine actually in 70 AD, which Jesus predicted when the temple would be teared down, every stone would be left unturned, and people would be killed, and that whole area would be ravaged. So,
and that was 70 AD.
70 AD.
Or 70 after Christ was crucified.
So here's the thing. Even then, we did not have a state of Palestine. It was a slur word against the Jews, and it actually is the Latin word for Philistine. As a matter of fact, you cannot get an Arabic speaker to tell you that there is even a Palestine. You know why? Because there's no P.
Not in their alphabet.
The P is not in the alphabet. So where are all these Palestinians then? And that's what I want people to understand. In the 1500, there was no Palestine. In 1600, there was no Palestine. The land of Israel, we can go all the way back, and even the Muslims have to go all the way back to when God gave the land to the Jews. But here's where Islam differs, and the Quran was not written until about 700 or 800 AD, where Genesis was written over 3,000 years before the Quran was written, and the Quran states that the children of Esau was given the land of Israel. But God gave that to Abraham and his seed.
Yeah.
So we have a book that is over 2,500 years old where God gives the land to Abraham. Then we have Moses coming in and leading the Egyptian Jewish slaves into Israel, and God dividing them there by tribe into Israel. And as a matter of fact, Israel is not really complete. I mean, there's parts of Jordan, there's parts of Syria, there's parts of Lebanon even that had these tribes that God gave them, but we're close. I mean, it's close to the tribes, the 13 original tribes that was given over to them. But there is no Palestine. We have no Palestine coinage. We have no Palestine people.
Artifacts.
None of that. When you go to Israel, you might find Philistine and Canaanites and the Amalekites and those, but there is no such thing.
And Ishmaelites.
Yes, and Ishmaelites. There is no such thing as Palestine. And I just want people, we don't understand our history. We don't go and read. We just assume, and you know what the word assume means?
Mm-hmm.
Based upon what the media gives us, and we do not educate ourselves. And that's what we try to do, Chris. We tell everybody, please go and fact check us. Go and listen to what we're saying, yes, but then go and look things up yourself. Look, you are to come through your own salvation through fear and trembling.
Right.
And not just listen to what Lawrence and Chris says.
Right, because we're giving you, we always say this is our opinion.
Right.
We always try to make people, you've got to get out things and educate yourself. But guess what? People don't have time.
People don't have time, but but what do we say? We're not politically correct, but
But
we're biblically correct. And we're trying to give you what the Bible is telling us. And yes, we are unapologetic Bible believers. The Bible is 100% correct, unerror word of God. Period. End of story. If you don't understand that about us, then there's no way to argue with us, because we're not going to look at anything coming from the secular world over God's word.
Right. And you know, we hear this all the time. I know you've heard it thousands of times. People are saying, well, just like this book right here, these men were instilled by God.
That's
our
right.
Constitution.
That's right.
And everything about it is godly.
And I'm going to tell you the other thing about the United States and the Constitution. Okay, God gave Israel to the Jews, but our founding fathers gave America to God.
That is exactly right. That was the sole foundation.
Yes. And I got goosebumps saying that all over. And I think that is the only reason our country, as evil as it has become, has not been destroyed, and God has remained merciful to us, because of our founding fathers gave this land to God.
Their blood, sweat, and tears.
Yes. And that is the second most perfectly written word in the world.
That's right.
Behind the Bible. So,
you know, it's bone chilling, but the thing that the Bible tells us, we are not to add to or take away from the Word of God. So it really drives me insane when we got people out there who were actually raised in the church, who grew up Christians, and they say, well, the Bible has not kept up with time. How many times you heard that, brother?
You know what? I rebuke that evilness.
I do too.
Because the Bible is unerror, unchanging. Praise God, it's unerror and unchanging. Because I look at what happens in the Bible when I read the Bible, and it is more truer today than anything that man could write today.
And every time you read it, you learn something new.
We do.
Think about that.
I agree with you 150% on that.
And we may as we season like that, as we're getting older, we're getting less hair, getting some highlights, but we're like that owl. We're the wise old owl. We're getting wiser.
Yeah.
As we season.
I don't know. I mean, my wife might disagree with that.
Okay. Well, we'll have to talk to Victoria later, But yeah, getting back to what we're talking about, folks, the Rome fell, in 70 AD, right?
You mean Jerusalem did?
I mean Jerusalem,
yes.
So let's pick up from that point, and we're getting back into the days of many, many, many moons ago, as the Indians would say.
Right.
So go ahead and pick it back up, and let me coattail with you.
Well, the whole point I'm trying to make on this is that you can go back as far as you want, and you're not going to find a country of Palestine. You have to go back all the way to the Philistines, which were a people, but not a country. I mean, they might have been a state even. But the word Palestine is a Latin word that Rome gave to the Philistines because they knew that the Philistines were enemies of Israel, to taunt the Jews. I mean, I'm going to tell you something. Rome was pissed when they came in and destroyed Jerusalem. You don't destroy Jerusalem like they did, because the Jews were not behaving. They weren't doing what they said. And Rome ruled with an iron fist. I'm just going to tell you, Rome did not put up with any kind of BS from anybody. And the Jews were giving them constant problems because the Jews believed that Yahweh was their leader, that God himself was their leader, and they would not bow down to Caesar. So they had problems. So if you didn't go by what Rome said, they'd just come in and kill you. They'd destroy you. And that's what they did. And then they made fun of the Jews by calling it Palestine after they took it over. So it was no longer Israel. So I just want people to know this, that when we're seeing this fighting going on, the fighting to me, and I read this book a long time ago, and I wish I could remember everything about the book, but it was called The Everlasting Hatred. And the everlasting hatred comes from the fact that God chose the Jews as his people.
It's his chosen people.
And us, and this is the Muslims, this is everybody else. So when I say us, the rest of us, a lot of us cannot accept that the Jews were his chosen people. And we fight over this. And us as Gentiles were actually blessed to be grafted in by Jesus Christ with the Jews. And we just have to accept that. But you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I've had numerous people, and people have different beliefs, and whether I believe it or not, they do. But, there's a lot of Christians out there that believe that they are part of the, one of the lost 12 tribes of Israel. And they want to claim to be the lost 12 tribes. And I've talked to these people numerous times, and they tell me, well, you're part of one of the lost 12 tribes of Israel. You're a Jew. And they believe in Jesus. They're Messianic Jews, or Messianic. I said Messianic Jews. And I look at them, I said, no, I'll be Gentile, thank you. And they'll look at me, what do you mean you'll be Gentile? I go, did you ever notice in the Bible that God was a lot more lenient with the Gentiles than he was with the Jews? I said, I'll be a Gentile. I'll be grafted in and be given more mercy because, I'm telling you, you read the Bible and God gives more mercy to the Gentiles than the Jews. Even Jesus, when the woman at the well, she was not Jewish. She was a Gentile. And he just told her to go and sin no more. Same with the woman caught in adultery. Jesus was a lot more.
That's kind of where Jesus drew the line in the sand, right?
That was.
And we don't know what he wrote in there. It's in the Bible where he tells ye without sin
cast the first stone. So I prayed about that. That was one of the things, because our Lord has a sense of humor. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what did you write in the sand, Lord, that made everybody drop their rocks and so unquote flee?
Because probably every one of them were sinners.
Well, not only were every one of them sinners, but how did they know that this woman was being caught in adultery? Because they all probably committed adultery with her because she was a prostitute.
They were guilty of sin. That's where that comes from.
That's not only where it comes from, but if you notice, the Bible's very direct that not only did Jesus write in the sand, but he looked up at him.
Right, as he wrote in the sand.
As he wrote in the sand. And I truly believe he wrote in the sand that you all have been with this woman or something to that effect. Or they have all committed some kind of sexual sin.
I wonder if that's where drop your rocks and run comes from as well. Think about that.
Yeah, yeah. So, but, Jesus had a lot more leniency with the Gentiles
than he did the Jews.
Than he did with the Jews.
I want to touch on something else that's important. Things when you and I were in elementary school are not the way they were back then, that they totally 360 from when we went through elementary school till today.
Right.
You remember every morning the principal of the school, and every principal I dealt with except one school was man.
Yeah.
And they would open with prayer and the pledge. And then, as in elementary school, and I'm talking about when you're big enough to read up to about the fourth grade, we had a devotion reading. You picked a scripture and you read, and everybody used to fight over that. You remember in elementary school, there was the wall of fame of all the presidents.
Right.
Remember that?
Yes, I do.
And how we honored not only President's Day, and I can remember the bust of Abraham Lincoln and George Washington and other presidents, but they were the two primary, it was like cartoon.
Right.
And then, the Declaration of Independence was on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
In some places, 10 Commandments
was
on the wall.
That's right.
Now, we have tried to totally destroy our history. We're ashamed. We've taken, the battles of the 10 Commandments. I think of Judge Roy Moore in Alabama, down in Etowah County, who gracefully displayed the 10 Commandments.
And boy, did the left go after that man.
Left and the
They hated
ACLU
Roy
and
Moore.
all those leftist groups.
Yeah.
Hatred.
Yes.
Let me tell you, they hate America.
Well,
And-
Jesus said that they hated me before they hated you.
That's right. Now, where I'm going with this, guess what these poor children, these Palestinians, this Hamas children in Gaza, in their elementary schools, guess what they've got on the wall? You
Tell
ever
me.
heard of Adolf Hitler?
Absolutely.
Osama bin Laden.
Yep.
This is what they're instilling in these young children, and they start teaching them at 4 and 5-year-olds to kill Jews, to destroy Jews. Can you imagine a child at 4 and 5 years old being taught that mess?
Well, that's because that's what's in the Quran.
And that's
Chris.
what's in the Quran.
The Quran actually says that in order for the Mahdi to come back, that a rock will cry out, "There's a Jew behind me, come kill him."
Come kill it. Yeah.
And so this is practice in the Quran even. And so if you believe in the Quran, like me and you believe in the Bible, these people, they don't think that their Mahdi, which is their Messiah, which our Messiah is Jesus Christ, doesn't come back. Let me tell you, this is the funny part. I gotta go. I'm going off on a rabbit trail here. So do you know that the Muslims believe in Jesus? Are you aware of that, Chris?
No, I'm not. You're throwing me a curveball or a changeup right now.
No, they really do. They believe in Jesus. They will tell you that he was born
His very existence, born of a virgin.
born of Mary, yes. Yeah. And they call him Isis. Isa is what they call him. But they said that he was not a son of God, that Allah can only be one God.
That's right.
Which is the moon god, which is the Egyptian moon god at that, okay? We can go down and this can be proven very easily. But Jesus to them is a great prophet. And when Jesus comes back, he is like the false prophet and paves the way for the Mahdi, which is their Messiah. And Jesus says, it was wrong. The Bible taught you wrong. People taught you wrong. I was a liar. I was not the Son of God. I was a prophet. Here's the thing, and God is very plain in this. You cannot even tell one false prophecy and be a prophet. So how can they claim that Jesus is a prophet, but when he comes back, he says that he lied? Do you see how messed up that is in their belief?
It's twisted.
Yes, that's how twisted it is. But I'm telling you that when their when their Jesus comes back, it is the false prophet of the Bible. And the Mahdi is the Antichrist. It lines up when you read the stories in the Quran. And this is the thing, people, educate yourself. Don't take my word for this. I have read the Quran, okay?
From front to back.
I have read the Hadith, okay? When their Mahdi comes back and you look at what the Mahdi is, then it is the exact description of the Antichrist in the Bible. So I'm just telling people, be on alert. And Jesus even said in Matthew 24, okay, Luke 21, Mark 13, when Jesus was asked by the disciples in the Olivet Discourse, when will these things be, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? And these are actually three separate questions, okay? Jesus goes and answers these three questions separately throughout these books. But the first thing Jesus says, and then he repeats it one or two other times, depending on which book you're reading, the first thing he says is, let no man deceive you.
Because no man knows.
Well, no, not only does no man know, but he is saying don't let any man deceive you who he is, meaning Jesus Christ. That in the end times, that there will be great deceptions. And Jesus even says that the deception is so great that even the very elect would be deceived if I did not come back. So Jesus is very emphatic about do not be deceived in the end times. And I'm telling you, when you go and read about the Mahdi and you go read about their Isis, which is Jesus, who they say they believe in. You can talk to a Muslim. You can go to any fanatical Muslim. And the first thing they'll do, oh, yeah, I know Jesus. Yes, we believe in Jesus. But they believe in Jesus as a prophet, not as the Son of God. And there's where the difference is. They do not believe in the triunity of God. Do you know that you are a triune individual? And when I say triune, I'm talking about Trinity here. Do you realize that you and me both are a Trinity? Now, let me explain that to you, because you're looking at me going, this almost sounds sacrilegious here.
It's not.
But it's not, and I'm going to explain why. So we have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, correct? Okay. So here's the best way I know how to explain the triunity of God. Because people say, oh, well, how can he be three in one? How can he be a Father and a Son and a Holy Spirit? So let me ask you this, Chris. Are you a son?
I am.
Are you a father?
I am.
Are you a husband?
I am.
Are you three in one? You have three different jobs based upon who you are to your parents, to your wife, and to your children. You are a triune being, just like we have a body, soul, and spirit. And a lot of times people don't understand that. And they try to make things too complicated to what God is. And I'm going to tell you something. That's the best I can do to explain who God is to you.
The triangle effect.
It is. And I mean, and it may not be good enough for you. It's good enough for me, but it might not be good enough for you. And that's why we have to all come through our own salvation through fear and trembling.
Well, you spin this. I mean, you're not spinning it, you're telling it. But let me tell you how things get spun.
Okay.
Just like these, I always called them the Clinton News Network. I know we say CNN.
Oh, yeah, Communist News Network.
Yeah, Communist News Network, MSNBC. They're now spinning Trump as a comparison to Adolf Hitler.
Oh, I'm going to tell you something.
Let me tell
you. Not only that, and I'll let you go with that, but I got something that MSNBC did on Trump here in a minute. But yeah, keep going.
And that he's a Nazi and a fascist. And I will tell you, when the removal of the Tennessee 3 thugs occurred is I walked out, and I've got video, and I think I've shared it with you, and the troopers come down and they're protecting everybody because I was up there watching the decorum, and I was one of 3 people in the gallery that was conservative, and I had all the fairies and the drags and fags and everything, cross dressers, you name it, around me. And as I walked out, they started using very foul language, even children as young as 10, cursing, and they were calling us fascists, racist. We were labeled everything under the sun, Nazi. And now we got MSNBC saying this about Trump. So it is just as crazy. This leftist group, it just drives you insane how deranged they are, how deranged Democrats are. They don't know what they are.
They don't. I am going to read what MSNBC said about Donald Trump. And in case people that are listening don't know, I'm not a Trumper. Okay, I'm not. Will I wind up voting for him? Yes, I will probably hold my nose and vote for him because he has done some good things. But he would not be my first choice. I'm just going to be honest with you. But when they talk about calling him a Nazi and a fascist and everything else, like, I totally disagree.
He's everything but.
But I totally disagree with Trump when it comes to the vaccines. But how did Trump do the vaccines? Trump said, okay, I got you the vaccine that you want. If you want to take it, you can take it. If you don't, you don't.
It was your prerogative.
It is your choice. Your body, your choice. Okay? I disagree with him doing it in the first place. Even.
I disagree with the fast tracking.
Okay, I do too. And I disagree with the fact that we have seen things come out that has not been very favorable to results even. Okay, I'm trying to say to keep us from getting kicked off of YouTube because they've done it to us before. But here's the thing, is he gave you a choice. What did the Biden administration do? First thing they did, they tried to make it mandatory.
Mandated.
So how is he a fascist? See, that's what the Democrat Party does, is that they project what they are onto you.
They tried to polarize Americans.
I want somebody to tell me how Trump is a fascist, how Trump is a Hitler figure, how we are Nazis if we're a Republican, if we even vote for him. Hillary Clinton actually said that we're an occult if you voted for Donald Trump. First she said we're deplorables. Now she says that we're involved in a cult even. But here, let me read how wicked this is. Here's what MSNBC, his name's Joe Scarborough, who's an idiot. Yes, I said it. Joe, if you ever hear this, you want to come on air with me? Dude, I would love for you to come on air with me.
A blooming idiot.
Yes. Here's what he said. He is an authoritarian who a court in Colorado 2 days ago ruled that he led an insurrection against the United States government. He is charged with leading schemes to help overthrow the United States government. One, that's a lie and here's why it's a lie. Because Colorado, they just got through saying that Trump was not guilty and the judge wouldn't even rule on him. Okay? He is free to go. He won that case. So if they want to frame it that way, this is Joe Scarborough again, that's fine. If you want to be fair, you will frame this as Joe Biden being the candidate that supports American democracy and Donald Trump, a candidate who supports a new form of government here that is all authoritarian. It's really that simple. So tell me, what has he ever done, Chris, that's authoritarian? Now again, I'm not a Trump fan. I think Trump's done some things that I disagree with. But he has always given people choices. Keep going. This is what he says. By the way, when people yell, oh, you can't compare him to Nazi leaders or the past fascist leaders because he hasn't done that. Well, what hasn't he done? He hasn't done the things that the American judicial system did not allow him to do last time, but may very well allow him to do this time, or a judicial system that will be ignored by Donald Trump and ran over by Donald Trump to create the greatest constitutional crisis of our lifetimes. He will imprison, he will execute whoever he is allowed to imprison and execute and drive from the country, Scarborough said. Just look at his past. It's not really hard to read. Again, the only thing that stood between him and the destruction of American democracy was the federal judiciary. What a liar. You are evil to say those things. He is flat out, he's going to execute, he's going to imprison. Really?
I think that's what the Biden administration did.
With the DOJ. They have
With the
weaponized
DOJ.
they have weaponized the DOJ.
I think, Joe, you've drank the Kool-Aid, brother. Big brother Joe must have give you a sip of the Kool-Aid.
So here's the funny thing. On MSNBC, they actually had comments. And the very first comment, this guy says, Joe is a blank, dumb blank.
Filling in blank.
Talking about Scarborough. Everything he says Trump will do to his opponents has already been done to him. They are actively trying to put Trump in prison because they're afraid they can't beat him. And look at how many people close to Trump they are trying to put into prison.
Look at these commie states trying to keep him off the ballot.
Well, and that's what Colorado tried to do, and that's what I was saying.
Yeah, right.
Trump won that.
He won that.
But they said he lost. So it just shows you how big of a liars.
How they try to polarize people into believing what they say is the truth.
But again, if you don't go and do your research,
you'll believe it.
You'll believe it. So I didn't mean to get off on Trump like that. And again, I'm just going to tell you, I will be voting for Trump if it comes down to Trump and Biden. But I will probably, I'm just going to be honest with you, Chris, unless he comes out and admits some mistakes that he has made, I will not be voting for Trump when it comes to the primary. I'm just going to tell you.
That is your choice.
That is my choice. And you're looking at me kind of cross-eyed.
No, I'm just saying that is your choice.
That's right. And you know what? If you were a Democrat and I said I wasn't going to vote for Biden, you'd be yelling and screaming at me right now and calling me all kinds of names. Instead, you're just looking at me going, okay, I can't wait to hear who you're going to vote for. You know, with that look, if you're not voting for Trump.
We don't know who's going to be who's going to be in the primary
yet.
We
don't. But
we do know that Pence has dropped out and Tim Scott has dropped out.
Yep.
We do know that two people have been eliminated by removing themselves.
Yes.
So we don't know what our choices are at this time.
That's correct. But
now, I will tell you one person I'd never vote for that's left in that bag.
Nikki Haley?
That's the second one.
Okay.
The first one's Chris Christie.
Oh, I can't stand Chris Christie.
I cannot stand him. He's just, he looks like the blimp or the mascot for the new Pillsbury Doughboy.
Well, see, I can't say too much because we both have body by junk food.
Well, we do, but hey, we're not as big as Chris Christie.
Well, we're not as big as a blank hole as Chris Christie is.
That's right. Let's go back 70 years, Lawrence.
Okay.
Let's go back to the great year of 1950.
Okay. When you're in high school, right?
No, I was in kindergarten. Lord have mercy. I don't know what I'm going to do with you. But I need to tell you about getting stopped and getting a ticket on the way over today.
Okay, but go back to 1970.
But 1950.
1950, I'm sorry.
We're going to go back 70 years. It's easy as we get old to get things turned around a little bit.
Yeah.
How many people in America at that time professed they were Christians?
I would have to say 95% or more.
Well, it was roughly 80%.
Okay.
Well, how does it stand today in 2020? Let's just go from 1950 to 2020.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage of people profess they're Christians?
In America or in
the population in America right now?
25 or 30%?
Less than that.
How much?
It's below 20.
Okay.
It's below 20.
Okay.
And it's sad. This is how, you get to thinking about, and I tried to take that walk down memory lane, when you got in the early 70s, you get home from school and elementary, so now I'll give away my age. And you were watching shows like Leave It to Beaver,
Mm-hmm.
Andy Griffin,
Yep.
Little Rascals, Three Stooges, cartoons like Woody Woodpecker, things of that nature. And nowadays, look at what kind of garbage they have to look at. You got the same thing I just got. We both looked at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But look how simple things were. There was no iPhones. There was sure not any computers. No cell phones, no computers. Back then, we had an 8-party line in my house as a little kid growing up. And, eavesdroppers and things of that nature. Old women sit on there and listen to your conversations. And all they did was gossip back then.
I would have
But
fun with that today.
I would too.
I would be making stuff up.
Listen. It would be fun knowing what I know now. But think about how simple life was, how we were a family unit, how people stayed together, family reunions. Heck, you do good to even hear of a family reunion now.
I know.
And how united, godly, and everybody was back then. And we're talking about 1975, between 70 and 75.
Yeah.
And look at it. Fast forward. Man, it is mind-blowing to think that who would ever dream that these soldiers who gave their life for our freedoms, that for us to be able to sit here and talk on this radio freely.
Yeah.
Who would have ever thought that we would kneel, take a knee against the flag? Who would ever thought these thugs would call our American flag racist? That's a racist flag. Well, we know they've done it for the Confederate flag for years, till they took it plumb out of everything just about.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're starting on changing the American flag.
Right.
But look how un-American Americans are becoming.
Well, that in order to change a society, you have to change the history.
You have to change the history. You have to erase the history.
That's correct. And that's the reason it's so important to know history.
And that's just like the same mob of people, whether it be Antifa. Yes, I'm talking about you, Antifa. I'm talking about you, Black Lives Matter. All these people, George Soros people, who started the movement of taking down our statues and destroying our history.
Well, George Soros is he wants to be a member of, or bring about the membership of the Great Society.
He's a Marxist. Or he's worse than
he's
that.
Evil.
He's evil.
He's straight out evil. Him and Klaus Schwab, the leader of the World Economic Forum,
Mm-hmm.
These are all evil people because they want to bring about a one world government.
Think about Bill and Melinda Gates.
Right.
They're evil.
They are.
These are evil people.
Yep.
And people fall for that. But, I just wanted to get off on that for a second. I get to thinking back when life was simple. When call waiting was going out on your front porch and hollering at your neighbor. That was call waiting.
That's right.
That's right. Think about these things. Think about how much simpler life was,
Well, I'm going to tell you something.
And a whole lot less stress too, brother.
There was, but we were told that these things were going to happen in the Bible. It was
like part of God's roadmap.
It's like my girls were saying the other day. They can't believe that 2023 is almost over. They said they can't believe how fast this year went.
Wait till they get our age.
Well, but I told them, it does seem to be going faster. And God tells Daniel that we will be traveling to and fro in the end times, and that time would speed up. And it seems like that time is speeding up. Yes, is there still 24 hours in a day? Is there still 60 minutes in an hour? Is there still 60 seconds in a minute? Yes.
365 days in a year.
But it still seems like it's going by faster, though, because I think because we're so busy and we're being overloaded with so much information. You know, the information that are overloaded. So I want to talk about, we're talking about Maryland again. Maryland's been on our mind today. But there is a CARE spokeswoman. And if anybody wants to know about CARE, CARE is the Council on American Islamic Relations.
And that's spelled CAIR.
That's correct. And she is the director. Now, what is interesting about her, not only is she the director of CARE for the state of Maryland, but the American Attorney General, Anthony Brown, just appointed this woman to the Maryland Hate Crime Task Force. Okay? Check out what this idiot said. And yes, I said idiot. And I try not to call people names. It's not right.
We'll just call them thugs.
I don't know what to call them, because this person says that the October 7th Hamas attacks were fake, and that babies that were brutally murdered was fake. And she was saying that the nation of Israel is like Nazi Germany. Her name is Zineid Chaudhry, and she actually is also an anti-Israeli activist. She said that when Hamas attack, which saw more than 1,200 people killed, including children and babies, as well as rapes and the kidnapping, she says, I will never, and this is her words, I will never be able to understand how the world summoned up the rage of fake Israeli babies being killed while completely turning a blind eye to 3,000 real Palestinian babies being murdered by Israel. This is what this woman said.
Thuggish woman is living in a fairyland.
So she says this even, that Israel is just like Nazi Germany in 1936. And here, this is interesting because you mentioned this earlier. In the Gaza Strip, in the elementary schools, in the Gaza Strip, the elementary school has on their walls heroes. One of the heroes is Osama bin Laden. The other hero is the creator of ISIS, and I can't pronounce his name. I'm not even going to try.
It's one of them long names.
Right. My Florida redneck just doesn't allow me to, I'll butcher it.
Your hillbilly lingo.
Right. But the other one was Adolf Hitler. Mm-hmm. But yet this woman says that Israel is like Germany. You see how how evil perpetuates what they do onto you?
Evil becomes good.
And good becomes evil. That was in Isaiah. That's what God said would happen in the end times.
Yeah, I know we're getting real close to our time.
We are.
Did you want me to tell everybody about my ticket today before we get off there?
We will. I'm going to get to that because I want to make this point here. People, listen to what I'm going to tell you now, and I promise you this, and I don't think I'm wrong, even though this is my opinion. But when evil perpetuates and say that you're doing something, and you know you're not, and they are actually doing it, And I'm just going to tell you something. It just absolutely, it bothers me, how people can be that evil. It really does.
They are.
So
these are the Satanists that's walking the face of the earth right now. This is his ring from his throne, Satan.
That is correct. And we're down to 5 minutes now. I can't believe it. One other point I want to make. One, shout out to Todd Warner for sponsoring our show. Thank you, Todd. I cannot wait to get you in studio with us. The other thing is all these college campuses, all these Muslims. No, we got 5 minutes.
Have we?
Yes.
Okay.
All these college campuses, all of these Muslims are protesting in the streets of Israel, and they're claiming Israel has killed 10,000 innocents. Okay? I don't believe them. I don't believe their numbers. But I'm going to take their numbers. Okay? They're protesting. They're causing harm. We've had a terroristic attack on our Canada-American border today.
And we feel like at I-10 in Los Angeles.
And we also had a fertilizer plant in Texas blown up last week too. And all this is being kept hush-hush, okay? I'm telling you, these are terroristic attacks. But I want to ask you, and I want to ask the Muslims this, I want to ask the pro-Hamas and the pro-Palestinian people this. Where have you been for the last 10 years when hundreds of thousands, not 10,000, hundreds of thousands of Muslims in the last 10 years have been killed by other Muslims in Iraq, Syria, Yemen, and Lebanon? Where are you people at protesting that? Hundreds of thousands of people being killed. You know why? Because it's Muslims killing Muslims, which they have done throughout centuries, throughout the beginning.
Since the beginning, right.
But you people are too dumb to read your history and understand it, or you are trying to perpetuate evil. I'm sorry, I'm raising my voice, but you have had hundreds of thousands of people killed in these countries, and not a word has been said. No protesting have been going on. Wake up, people.
That is exactly right. And, you have to get, sometimes have to get stern to get people's attention.
And I do. And I'm going to tell you what, I want to end this on your story. We got 3 minutes left. Tell me about your ticket.
Lord, it's funny, but it's not funny. I'm on my way over here to do the Lawrence County Republican show this afternoon. And let me tell y'all folks, getting out there on the roads during this Thanksgiving holiday weekend that's coming up, troopers are working, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Because when I got into Lawrence County, I met 5 troopers before I got stopped.
I've been driving like Little Miss Daisy. I'm just going to tell you.
Well, you don't think nothing about it until you look up, and I seen these blue lights, and I thought, my gosh, what did I do? And as I was approaching from New Prospect into Lawrence County on Old 64, or into Lawrenceburg, a dadgum wild turkey flew up in front of me and hit my windshield. I thought it was going to bust the windshield out of the car. It hit so hard.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't realize there was a trooper behind me. I wasn't paying attention.
Right. You wouldn't be because you're looking ahead.
I'm watching the road.
You're not doing anything wrong.
Because I don't know when a kid on a bicycle may run out in front of me. I know schools are out. You don't know when you're going to have somebody to cross the yellow line on you. But anyway, this turkey flew up, and I smacked him out there about right before you get to where you smell that gas as you come into Lawrenceburg.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, blue lights come on, and I thought, what in the world? And that trooper got out, and kind of heavy set, a little bit bigger than me. And he grabbed that belt buckle and that 50-pound holster and everything he's got with his cuffs and his magazines and his taser. And he said, license, registration, and proof of insurance. And he just goes back to the car. I hand him everything. He comes back up, and I said, can you tell me what I did? He said, I pulled you over. You flipped me the bird. I said, oh Lord, all I did was hit a turkey. And I get a
Happy
ticket for
Thanksgiving
flipping the
with
bird.
that. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I know it's going to be a day late when you hear this, but enjoy your leftovers. God bless America. God bless Tennessee, and God bless Lawrence County.
And a shout out to Todd Warner.
Shout out Todd Warner.
Thank you.